Hey guys, it's To Be Entertained, and you know the vibes. And here we are with Danny, and we are in Manhattan right now. Apparently, you can see this huge crowd going on. It's kind of like the ongoing. Well, there has already been an ongoing Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and we have my man Danny right here, and he's going to shed a little bit more light on the conflict. I have a few questions for him, and let's kind of move forward with it, right? So, how do you feel as an American, from like an American point of view? You might be of like another origin, or I don't know. I never truly asked. Like,
I'm not Muslim. I'm not Arab. I'm not Palestinian.
Also, you're just kind of just raising awareness.
Yes.
Okay. So that's cool. How do you feel as an American, kind of, looking at the whole conflict? I mean, obviously, both of us, we're not in Gaza. We're not out there. So yeah. Please tell the world,
Well,
yeah.
as far as being an American, it's different than being like someone from anywhere else in the world that can support Palestine. It's a little bit easier because it's like, it's a right thing to do.
Yeah.
But with America, there's obviously strings attached because Israel basically exists because of America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not only its origins, but to this day. You know what I mean? Their survival largely revolves around America. Not just bombs and ammunition, not just money, both. Staggering amounts of money. So as an American, we need to really come to terms with the fact that that's just true, and if you pay taxes, you're old enough to pay taxes, you know where that money's going. You know what I mean? And this has been going on for as long as it's been going on. So as an American, as Americans, we should feel a little bit more, than others, like dedicated to helping, supporting Palestine, and even just getting the word out.
We're kind of a superpower.
Okay.
A little bit of a noise going on, but kind of keep it moving along a little bit. So do you believe in this lifetime there could never be like an effective resolution of the conflict that continues to happen? This has been going on since like 1940,
Yes.
maybe even earlier, but
Yeah.
do you think that there could be an effective, the obvious rational thing that, that one can come to is kind of just split the land up 50-50, but yeah.
Okay.
What's your take on it?
So, in regards to like a solution, like what is the answer? I wish I knew. I think we all wish we knew, because then we could end this finally, which is the goal. I don't like being out here. We're not saying this because it's fun. We want Palestine to be free so that we don't have to, do this anymore. But
Facts are facts.
I mean, it's very complicated. I'm not going to say it's simple just to disregard or try and post my side because that's easy or something. But I will say that, and when Palestine shoots rockets back and they fight back, they're defending themselves. I want to be very clear about that. If you want to argue semantics of how it started, who's specifically sending the rockets, the people who have only that way of defending themselves are doing that. So I want to be clear on that. They have a right to defend themselves, Palestinians, which is what they do. But having said that, there is not a military solution on both sides, obviously. Palestinians can't militarily defeat Israel into submission, and obviously Israel can't do it either, even though they try to as much as they can. If they could have defeated Palestinians militarily, it would have happened by now. So both sides cannot defeat each other militarily. And until we do come to a solution that is not a military solution, this is just going to keep happening. There's going to be a war every few years, 2008, 2014, then everyone forgets about it for a little while, then and on and on and on. And from what's going on right now in Israel and Palestine, it's insane, right? Like I've never seen anything like, as of right now, when we're recording this, there's mobs of settlers, it's insane. And I think that kind of proves also that the longer this just goes on, it's getting worse. You know what I mean? We never would have thought it would have got like this insane, but it is. So the longer we just sort of shrug our shoulders, or either side digs their feet in and say, we can defeat them militarily, it's not going to happen. I don't know the answer, but the answer is, I think the answer should be along the lines of bringing attention, having discussions, not automatically like saying an Israeli is evil by definition, especially if they're not if they're actually coming to me and want to listen to me and have a conversation. That's important. You know what I mean? It's important for Israelis to understand that the propaganda that the Israeli government says is not true. They're all a bunch of deranged religious, nut jobs and terrorists. And I think it's important that both sides see that, because the sooner that both sides see that they're actually human, again, the closer we can get to an answer. The solution to Palestine needs to be something like South Africa with the end of apartheid in the 1990s. It needs to be political. It needs to be legitimate. There needs to be hearings. There needs to be grievances aired out, and there does need to be people that need to be punished. I don't know who specifically, like certain generals or whoever, but people need to be held accountable. It's not enough to just say, like, okay, it's free tomorrow. Like, there is land that there's obviously a lot of disputes, but like I said, like, I'm not for anymore, like, the whole, like, war, beat them into submission. I want to beat them just because I don't like them anymore. We're trying to get a solution to stop dead children. We're sick of seeing dead children.
Yeah, that's the most kind of important thing, innocent women, children, stuff like that. Well, to kind of address the elephant in the room now, obviously there's a bit of I don't want to say it, but a religious element involved. There's, on one hand, one side is Jewish, on the other hand, one side is Muslim. Now, do you think this is more of like a political kind of thing, or do you think there's like a religion, or like a religion? Is it both?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah.
Now,
elephant in the room, I know.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm glad you asked that. Now, to ignore the fact that there is obviously heavy religious connotations, just even, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, it's the Holy Land, you know what I mean? So there's obviously going to be levels of dispute or whatever.
Yeah.
But we can get to the bottom of that. And I want to make most important that the Palestinian conflict is not a religious alone, you know what I mean? It is a freedom. It is a freedom conflict. It's very simple. These native people who live in this area that they're from are being evicted and have been driven out for years by a bunch of people who came from Europe. It's a bunch of white people who came from Europe who were driven out during World War II. And I'm not, like, I feel bad for them, but what I'm saying is that's not the Palestinians' fault. You know what I mean? The Israelis, it's like they take it out on the Palestinians for what happened to them in World War II. And another excuse they say is like, well, the Palestinians during World War II supported the Nazis somewhat. What, more than others? More than Spain? More than others? Spain was officially a fascist Nazi country until the 70s. Yeah. It's all excuses, you know what I mean? It's excuses for a very simple problem, which is these people came in, they pushed the British out, also through terrorism, bombing the King David Hotel. Very ironic that they don't mention that part, you know what I mean? And that was it. And they've had free reign ever since, and they do whatever they want, you know what I mean? Palestinians have certain roads they can use, certain roads they can't. Sound familiar? That's apartheid South Africa. It's the same thing. And, that doesn't need to be a religious issue, you know what I mean? To be given equal rights.
It's a human issue.
Yeah, it's a human rights issue, obviously.
Now, I don't know if you're aware, there are Jewish people that are actually for Palestinian rights. Now,
absolutely.
I think if people or the general population know that these people exist, there could probably be more of a change, because right now it's like A versus B, B versus A, and people don't see that there's a gray area.
Absolutely. And
so what do you feel about those Jewish people?
Well, first of all, those Jewish people, the Hasidics and whoever Jewish people, even moderate Jewish people who support Palestine, they are not doing it for some ulterior motives. They are legitimately doing it. I see them at protests. I've talked to them. They don't have some sort of agenda or something. They genuinely believe and support Palestine. And I have a particular respect for them because, I don't know about you, I'm not Jewish, it's got to be kind of maybe sometimes, black sheep if you're a Jew standing with Palestinians. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not Jewish, but yeah, I would figure. And I've been with Jewish supporters at a protest where I see Jewish people come over and yell at them. But having said that, it's wonderful that Jewish people support the Palestinian movement. Once again, disproving the notion that it's a religious thing. There are Palestinian Christians. There are Palestinian, you know what I mean? There are Palestinian atheists, you know? It's not a religious, fundamentalist thing that the Israeli government tries to push.
So, kind of only have like your 2 more questions, you know, not to take up too much time out of your day.
I'm happy to.
So you think money kind of plays a huge issue in this as well? I mean, I know that's a key, you know, if you can, I don't know, if you could say a few things about that.
Money as far as like financing towards Israel?
Financing towards Israel,
or financing not towards Palestine, because it's both, right?
I guess you could play it to both sides and, kind of explain that aspect of the whole thing.
That same point is probably two sides of the same coin. Going back to, like I said, Israel basically only exists because of America.
Go ahead. Oh, okay.
Israel only exists because of America. That's not an exaggeration. You know what I mean? Everything from the gate to today, almost all of their budget, their military, everything is given by America. So, and regardless, you know, it's America whoever's doing it, that's a money thing, you know? Again, going back to what I was saying about a military solution is not going to work. I think a huge, massive step in the correct direction is to have massive sanctions, you know what I mean, from everyone on Israel. Just like how they started doing it in apartheid South Africa. Before apartheid South Africa fell, it was getting sanctioned from countries all over the world. It couldn't survive anymore. How is Israel going to survive if they no longer have the moral high ground and they're not getting finance either? So it's very important to somehow, you know, have conversations like this. This is good to get the word out, but it's important to definitely start with sanctions, money, take away their funding.
And kind of like the last question is, you know, kind of to top it off. I mean, you know, past is past, you know, not much anyone can do. I mean, you know, believe me, I try to Google if there's a time machine. There's no time machine out there right now, right? You know, present, you know, this is what it is. But we got to kind of focus on the future generation of the younger people that are out there, and, you know, how are they going to address these issues as they're going to grow up? I mean, are the Palestinian people going to go away altogether? I mean, you know, maybe a few more words on that, and, you know, that'll kind of wrap up the, you know, our talk for the day.
I guess I'll address like the situation that's going on right now, because it's very out of control. You know, anyone who's following it right now, it's not just the rockets and the bombings right now. There's mobs of people like going at each other. It just kind of goes back to my point about the longer we don't solve this, like actually solve it, finally get the solution, this is going to keep getting worse, even in ways that we never would have expected. The shit I see going on there now, I never would have expected that. I've never seen that before. And so it just keeps escalating.
Most devastating
and it's affecting everyone. Nobody's really gaining from this. Can we agree that?
No.
Like, I mean, for the Israelis, it's mainly saving face. For the Palestinians, it's survival. But nobody's really gaining anything from this. Nobody's winning. Nobody's winning any real, like, you know, it's so. It would serve everyone's side to end this. It doesn't help Israel, if you think about it, to keep the status quo going. I mean, look at, it's becoming more and more popular to call out Israel for what it is. You know, just even a few years ago, when you say, I don't like Israel, I support Palestine, people, you know, they shrug away, they don't pay attention, but now people listen. I actually have, just even today during the protest, I've had a couple of people come up to me and said, what did the one guy say? He said he was actually Israeli. One guy told me, he's like, I got a brother in the IDF right now. And I had a 5-minute conversation with him. And I was so glad that I did, because just little things like that. And I conveyed to him that I wasn't some crazy fanatic, and he conveyed to me that he wasn't some delusional nut. He was willing to listen. And I told him it's very important, just little things like that. You know what I mean? Because I also had today Israel supporters or whatever that just sort of walk by and say fuck you or whatever, but you know, and they don't stop, you know, they don't stop and have a conversation. One guy was like, I hate Palestine, and I'm like, talk to me, like, stop for a second, you don't even talk to me. No, I don't want to. He keeps it pushing. Those people, ignore them, you know what I mean, because obviously they're the problem. They're pushing poison and they don't want to have a debate. They are the problem. They are the ones that want to push the status quo. But yeah, don't be afraid to talk to people that you might believe is, you know, the opposition by definition. You know what I mean? Because I tell you what, Israel, the regime, the government, will be in serious trouble when half of their own population, Israelis, start turning on them. That'll be the real issue, when they can't even convince their own people anymore of their propaganda. And that's only going to happen, again, when we start even slightly trying to bridge a gap. Again, I don't know how to bridge the gap. You know, I'm trying. We're out here. You know, we do what we can, but do something. You know what I mean? Don't just sit home, shrug your shoulders. I know a lot of people, they're not left or right, but they're just so bothered by negative stuff. They're like, I just want to talk about it. You know, I don't want to watch the news. And I understand that. It's easier to, like, who wants to see videos or photos of blown up children? But even more so, I don't want to see those anymore. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to just ignore photos of that. I don't want those photos to exist anymore. I don't want that to exist anymore. And for that, you have to answer some of these tough questions, and you know what I mean? Like, give people honest answers, and that's the best you can do. Just, you know, be honest. You know, your word is like, you know, all we have at the end of the day.
All right, well, yeah, there you have it, folks. I gotta say it again. Well, yeah, there you have it, folks. I just had a, you know, like a normal conversation with a Palestinian supporter. He's not crazy at all. He explained a good point of view. Yeah, thanks for, you know, taking the time out to, you know, answer our, you know, questions.
Thank you.
No, I really appreciate it. You know, kind of, you know, a shed light on, yeah, what's going on, you know. And you've been to be entertained. That's our YouTube channel, and I hope that yeah, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, and that's a wrap, guys.
Viva Palestina. Free Palestine.